We also undertook various engagements with the community through the chiefdom. One of the aspects that was important, obviously, is to have a social buy-in in the area. Therefore, we undertook a community engagement program over a period of about 1 month initially, to go around most of the villages in Kasanseli to sensitize them as to who ZCCM IH was and what we were in the area, what we were there to do in the Kasanseli area. We also intended to share with the community information to the fact that we were actually we were not going at this venture alone, and that we were participating, or rather they would be involved through the participation of the Chief Chibuika Development Trust. I'm sure through your engagements with the chiefdom, you have been briefed as to the motive of this development trust. So I will not speak to it much. So to date, or rather, following the community engagement, some of the activities we got involved in the community have to do with us. We sank a borehole in the Kasanseli village, which is the first of, I think, 3 boreholes that we had planned to sink in the area. So we've sunk 1 so far. It is fully equipped with tank stands, a tank, 10,000 liter tank. It also has all the pumps and some solar power connectivity. So we've seen we've received some good response after sinking this borehole from, I think, from the community, as they have better access to water. We are cognizant of the fact that this is not enough in terms of the water supply, and we have in our budget for this year been looking to sink a few more boreholes to just decongest the current borehole that's there, and also spread them out so that the nearby, also smaller communities can be able to access this water. We also undertook rehabilitation of the road, partial rehabilitation of the road in conjunction with the council, which covered, I think, almost 10 kilometers of the Munilunga Kasanseli road. It's a gravel road, which was in terrible condition. However, for those of you who've been there, you will notice from the tarmac to about just before you get to the actual village, there were some rehabilitations that were done late last year. There's also, I think, the football pitch that you spoke of, which is already in your report. Maybe I'll also take the time to highlight some of the future plans that that ZCCM had earmarked as part of the CSR activities. But I think maybe I'll touch on that as I speak to responding to, I think, your report directly, and some of the areas or the comments that I had for the meeting. So if you allow me, I will now speak directly to the report. So some of the areas, I think I have about 5 or 6 points that I had identified in the report. Some of them I may have touched on them in my introduction or in my background. So please, you bear with me if it sounds a bit repetitive. Okay, one of the areas I noticed in the executive summary had to do with the price per gram that was quoted. I think the author speaks of $1,900 per ounce, and then he speaks of $610 per gram. So I thought this was a bit of a typo, as this should have probably read as $61 per gram. So maybe you can take note of that. Additionally, still on the executive summary, there is talk of Consolidated Gold Company of Zambia, which was supposedly incorporated in March 2020. So I wanted to correct this position, provided given the context that I think that Consolidated Gold Company is being mentioned in this report. So I just wanted to firstly make a distinction between Consolidated Gold Company and Zambia Gold Company. So Consolidated Gold Company is another gold project that ZCCM-IH is involved in. However, this is not in Northwestern Province. This is in Consolidated Gold Company, has operations in Rufunsa district as well as in Lumbwa district. So I just wanted to clarify that aspect. I think it's very important that we are all aware that in Mwinnilunga, we are speaking about Zambia Gold Company and not Consolidated Gold Company. Consolidated Gold Company is not involved in any exploration or mining activities, but is merely a gold processing company. So there's a difference between the gold exploration and mining and the gold processing. So Consolidated Gold Company has constructed some gold processing facilities in Rufunsa, where the local mining companies and artisanal miners are free to come and have their gold processed at these facilities at a fee. Whereas Zambia Gold Company is involved in gold exploration and gold mining activities in Mwinnilunga district. And yes, so just to reiterate that there is no involvement of CGC in Kasanseli or Northwestern Province. On my third comment, in terms of, I noticed there was the contribution of gold mining, to the Zambian economy. There was a figure of $164 million reported in the report as a gold contribution. So this was more of a question. I just wanted to ensure that the author had also taken into account production that is declared at Kansanshi. Just off the top of my head, I think on average, Kansanshi is doing about 4 tons a year of gold production. So I just wanted to ensure that that's included in that $164 million. My fourth comment, in the report, it also further states that Zambia Gold Company was awarded an exploration license by ZEMA, the Zambia Environmental Management Authority, in March 2020. Just to clarify here, ZEMA does not issue or grant exploration licenses. It merely grants decision letters, which are then considered by the issuing authority of the licenses, who is the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Development. So that is just another correction from our end. There was also an issue that came out quite strongly on the aspect of compensation of, okay, I'll just read the sentence here. It says, however, there was a portion of land the portion of land taken over and fenced off by the company was part of the passage route leading to the farming fields for local people, and in some instances, the actual farming fields of the people of Kasanseli village. So in the report, somewhere else, it goes on further to state that there were about 67 affected farmers. But I just wanted to clarify that in the area where we are conducting mining activities, there were only 9 farmers or 9 families of farmers who were involved in farming activities there, and they were predominantly farming cassava. What we did here is that we did engage these farmers through their headmen, as well as through the district agricultural office, who attended various meetings that we held with the farmers and the headmen. And there are also minutes to that effect, which are in the custody of the district agricultural officer. The purpose of these meetings was to ascertain the value of their farming plots, as well as the value of the current crops that had been planted already. So in concluding these discussions, we engaged an environmental consulting firm by the name of Misenge Environmental Consultants based in Kalulushi, who conducted an assessment in conjunction with the district agricultural office, and compensation amounts were devised, and these were communicated to the 9 affected farmers. We initially had agreed on set compensation with these 9 affected farmers. However, as we were looking to conclude, I think we experienced some delays in the case of the chiefdom awarding them alternative land where they could move to. So this was still in discussion, and as soon as that was concluded, then we were to step in and then award them in monetary terms, in addition to the alternative land that they were supposed to receive. So that is just to speaking to the issue of compensation. Then finally, it was just on the CSR activities. I think I spoke about a few of them in my introduction. There was the borehole, the football pitch, as well as the Mwinilunga Kasanseli Road, which we had worked on in conjunction with the council. In addition to this, in our budget for 2021, we have also made provisions for things like construction of classroom blocks at the nearby school. This is being done in conjunction with the DEB's office. As you know, ultimately the Ministry of Education are the ones who would determine would approve, or rather approve for us to move on site and do constructions and to what specifications. So all of that process is still ongoing. However, on our end, I think we have, if not issued already, are in the process of issuing a tender advertisement for contractors to come and bid to construct these facilities. We're also looking at the construction of a health facility in the Kasanseli village. As you know, and as your report rightfully brought out, there is no nearby health facilities near in the Kasanseli area, and most people have to go to Mwinilunga to seek medical attention. So this is also in process and has been budgeted for in our budget for 2021, and we expect that we'll be closing out on this in the shortest possible time. And I think with that said, I will close my submissions at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Sampa. Mishek, are you able to pick it up? Mishek, are you there? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sampa, for that insightful response.
Are you able to hear me, Mr. Angena?
Yes, yes. You can pick it up now with the next people.
Okay, I sincerely apologize. Sometimes, as you know, technology can fail at any time. And thank you, Mr. Sampa. I was listening attentively to your submission. You have explained so well about what you are doing in terms of protecting the interests of the government and, of course, the people of that area in Kasengate. May I also make mention that we are expecting the Honorable MP, Mr. Newton Samakai, from Mwinilunga to join us. We're expecting that maybe as we proceed, he will pop up and make it. But we pray that others will also come in. There should be Mr. Sam Isaac Mungwara, a concerned citizen, as the third speaker, to just raise issues surrounding the issue that we are discussing today, the assessment of this status of artisanal gold mining in Western Province. Is Mr. Mungwala with us? Hello?
Yes, he is around. Mr. Mungwa.
Maybe we hand over to Mr. Mungwala to give us or raise issues surrounding the issue or the topic of discussion today as we proceed.
Hello, are you with me now? Oh, no.
Yes, Mr. Mungwala, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. I hope you people are able to get me clearly. Yes, like the moderator has said, my name is Mungwala. I'm speaking as a concerned citizen. Yes, let me start with just giving a short brief background of how the gold nuggets were discovered essentially. And that was in June 2019, as the area speaker has already said, when the gold nuggets were discovered at Kasenseri in Mwinunga district. And unfortunately, at the time when the gold nuggets were discovered, the information could not reach the community leaders in time for them to prepare and perhaps make interventions to avoid further illegal activities. And by the time the information was coming to reach the community leaders, most of the activities had quite advanced. And I think following that discovery, and when the community leaders started getting involved, we already had some people who owned, who claimed they had licenses, and I think it was proved that they had licenses to operate in that area. During that time, the period between June and September, what we saw was that the economic activities in the district actually had increased because we had a number of people accessing the mine, trying to participate and participating in buying and of course digging, mining, and washing of the soil for them to get the nuggets and sell. We saw indicators quite clearly that a lot of people had money. There was a lot of money in circulation in the whole district that time. We saw every commodity in the district or on the market during that time was sellable. Residents were actually building houses both in town and within the Kasenseri area in surrounding villages. We also saw some people that were interested in buying cars. They were buying, and those that were able to start small businesses were able to do so. And some actually had to diversify to acquire livestock, and they have been now they now own some livestock. within and outside the Kasensere area. So these mining activities, actually, they did not come without negative impacts, like it has been mentioned in the reports. The first one that I would talk about is that the farming activities actually were disturbed, especially the area around Kasensere. People had no time to actually concentrate in their fields for cassava, which is the common crop, and even maize. They had all the time to go and look for gold to sell, which was quick money than waiting for some crops that would take the whole season for them to harvest and get the income. So this led to the farming activities actually being disturbed. And as we speak, the Kasensere area itself is actually badly affected with the starvation, as people are only now depending on food that they can buy, and those who are able to buy, I think, are trying to do it and surviving with their families. Those who have no capacity now to buy must be facing a lot of problems when it comes to food. So we also saw so many children abandoning school to search for gold, and were actually making money. And because they were making money, so they actually did have no time to go to school. And this included boys and girls. We also saw most of the Kasensere residents, losing their crops, especially cassava, because the area where the Kasensere mine was discovered was around. That's the area where most of the people, some families actually had their cassava fields. And unfortunately, the people that has gone into the area to participate in the gold mining had a section of them, or some of them, were staying in the forest, right in the bush, and that's where the cassava fields were. So those people were actually feeding on the cassava for the people of Kasensere, and actually contaminating most of their water sources there, where they had the people of Kasensere were soaking their cassava that they were living on. So we saw these activities happening in Kasensere, and of course the diseases, STIs, were on the increase. There was a time when we actually learned that the nearest healthy post had run out of medication or medicines for STIs in a space of about 14 days. So we also saw marriages being disturbed. There were so many ladies who had come from town, from other villages, from all over the country to settle there in doing business. So some of the people who also had gone there, men were actually abandoning their families to get involved with those women. The other thing that we have seen, which most likely is still a threat up to now, is the fact that the Kasensere area is a rural area. It's just it's a forest. There's a very big forest around the mining area. So meaning that anybody can access the area from any direction with whatever ammunition or whatever weapons that they have. We have had these situations where people were found with guns, and we were happy to see the security men coming in to clean up the place. But even after that, we still had instances of some rumors of saying, here there are people with guns here, there are also others, and this is because the area there is a forest, and people can easily use any other direction to go to that area, and that is a threat up to now, because we are here we are talking about a community in a village who depend on going to the field, cultivating here and there, and then you have suspicions that there could be people running around or moving around the bush, and they are with guns. So those risks are still a threat to us as a community, and we have observed this. I personally have seen that that's a challenge, which is still we have to ask government to look at. So after November 2019, that's the time when the Zambia police took over managing the site. And what we saw now, from June, like I said, from June to November, because of so many people, the community were participating in different economic activities, you could see that there was money in circulation in the community, in the town, and so forth. But when November 2019 came and the security took over, we saw a shift. So the community that used to participate in the economic activities, to make money for their living and to try to create some other sources of revenue for their households, the situation changed. It's the security officers and other politicians and of course other well-connected individuals who actually started showing the indicators of having the money in their hands and not the community. The community actually started struggling. We saw this, they became inactive in participating in the economic activities, but of course we saw the security men, acquiring different assets, even the way they moved around town, you see that these are the people with money. So this scenario went on up to April 2020, last year, when ZCCM went on site. So this is when again now we saw another shift. So those activities also were controlled. ZCCM took over and they started managing the site. So everything started stabilizing. And now, as we speak, we don't see those economic activities. We don't see this money in circulation the way it used to be during the two periods from June, November 2019, and then November 2019 to April 2020. So after the company, Zambia Gold Company, which came in, there were also some community groups which received some licenses, like for the youths and some other groups within the community who have also been given those licenses, but they are not as active as the ZCCM, because ZCCM actually went in on site with the equipment, with all the capacity to do what they can. And then, but of course, the community, the youth and others, most of these are still trying to look around for the sites within their licenses where they can carry out these prospecting activities and planning for possible mining. So this is what we have seen happening. And we also saw other companies mapping some areas, setting up camps. We've seen Chiribwe and others, they have been on the ground. So this is what we have seen so far happening. We are not very much sure whether, as they are prospecting, they are recording some success or not, because we have not, well, personally, have not engaged them closely to find out exactly if they are making progress or not. But of course, we've seen they are there. As we speak, like I said already, there are a number of groups that are searching around in the chiefdom, looking for the areas where they can set up their mines. So currently, if I am to looking at the situation in Mwinilunga now, I think life in Mwinilunga is not as livable as it used to be during the time when the people in the community were participating actively in those economic activities. I think it has become a bit quiet, though there are some people who are still trying to search here and there. So basically, this is what I've observed as an individual, as a person, what is happening in Mwinilunga. But also, let me also respond to some issues in the report. In the report, there was a mention that ZCCM, Zambia Gold Company, was actually, buying gold from individuals whom they have organized and within the Kasenseri area. So I think that may be happening. somewhere else in other sites. What we have seen in Kasenseri, actually Zambia Gold Company are doing the mining themselves. They are also doing their explorations themselves. They are not buying any material from the local people or from even the people. They have not even organized anybody to do mining so that they can do buying from them. Those whom I'm talking about, who are already on site in the bush, those have been there as organized by the government through the Ministry of Mines. And if they are going to find any materials, I believe the government is going to handle that. We have not seen their relationship being connected to Zambia Gold Company. So I think that one is what I thought is something that should be corrected. Otherwise, most of the things that have been mentioned in the report are equally what we have observed. Let me also quickly respond to the corporate social responsibilities the previous speaker has mentioned of the borehole. Yes, the borehole was done and it is mechanized, powered by solar, and the tank is there. Some pipes also there where the people are able to access the commodity, the water. And of course, they use the equipment to open up a football pitch, which is there in the village. The third part, you mentioned about the road. I think if I heard him correctly, he said that the mine had done a 10-kilometer stretch. I don't know if they have, because I left Lunga for about 2 months now. Unless they have done that 10 kilometers in the 2 months, that I have not been present. But when I left, actually the attempt was made. An attempt was made to work on the road from town to Kasenseri, and what they did is about 5.4 or so kilometers from town. The longest stretch is still there, and actually the west part, which is between the Zambia Army checkpoint and the Kasenseri mine itself, that's the west stretch that has not been attended to. Perhaps because an attempt was made, but because they were trying to work on the road when the rains were very heavy, so they failed. They had to stop. We expect them to continue maybe now that the rains are reducing. So on the stretch that is done, I think it's not 10 kilometers as it is done, as it was mentioned. It's actually less than that. It's just about 5 kilometers. And then the other concern, personally, as an individual who has been following the activities at Kasenseri mine, is that yes, I think we would wish to see companies, not only ZCCM and those other companies who are coming to participate in the mine at Kasenseri, to have a plan. When engage the community, pick the priorities from the community, even as you start running the projects, the corporate social activities. I mean, it will be responding to people's needs, to people's priorities. Yes, like the water issue, yes, it was an issue. We accept it and we appreciate it. The road is a very important issue that we have been crying for from the time that discovery was made. But again, I think we want to see the plan. So if ZCCM or Zambia Gold Company or any other company are saying we are going to do corporate social responsibility, where is their plan? Is it just a matter of saying, oh yes, there we can put a borehole, then they go and put? Oh no, we mend the road there. We want to see a plan that will say, okay, yes, this is the plan, and this plan is for sure responding to our needs. I think that is the way to go. Not anything. So far, whatever has been done, I do not think it was in any plan. We have not seen any plan from any company that has come to Kasenseri. And I don't think that is how things should work. We need to see a situation where the companies involve the community, the leadership, the district, and anybody else to see this is the priorities, and this is what we can do. We see an outline of activities so that even as these activities are being implemented, they are responding to our needs as a people. You know, the other thing with that I would want to mention is in the way they have been handling their employment procedures in their contract awarding. I think the people of Mwinilunga, including myself, have noticed that something has not been done correctly. Yes, we understand that ZCCM is a public company listed at the Lusaka Stock Exchange, and they have maybe been following their international standards. But you know, Kasenseri is a local community, it's a rural community. Mwinilunga is a rural district. The company should come down to the level of Mwinilunga and start growing together with it as they work with the people in Mwinilunga, grow Mwinilunga together with the company, and so that tomorrow they will boast to say, this is how we found Mwinilunga, and together we grew and we're at this level. That's what we want to see, not a situation where have contracts and you are the people in Mwinilunga are able to access internet. Yes, they may have the phones, which they are able to maybe look through, get through to WhatsApp, Facebook, and other things. But do they really, have they been oriented that, okay, actually we are advertising on internet? No, if you want to follow us, please go to this page or do this so that you find whether we have jobs for you or we have a contract for you or not. They have not done that. And even why even go that way? Why not go to the local community there? We have all the offices. Mwinilunga is a well-established district. The central government is represented. All the ministries have offices apart from the mine, maybe the Ministry of Mines, which is in Solwezi, but it's very close. That is their catchment. It is within their catchment, and they are there and they can get all the information. Why not get to the community, make your posters there, create your centers where you say, okay, this is our information center. Communities who want to hear from us can come here and they'll find this information, they'll get it and they'll follow it so that they participate. Why not do that? Why should you restrict us to internet? Yes, I may have some access to internet, but it's not everybody. Now, should we select who should be, whose life should be improved upon, or we are targeting the whole community? I think those are some of the issues. So actually, the company, Zambia Gold Company, and these other companies which we have heard have come, they have detached themselves to the community, which is very unfair. If you continue working in an area, but you're detaching yourself to the community, then how do we trust you? How do we see you responding to our expectation? Definitely, we will be doubting. So I think those are some of the issues that we feel we have seen. The report has brought out a number of issues, but these are some of the things as well, which we feel, personally, I feel the company should actually start working on. The other thing is, I think, yes, when the prospecting activities were starting, yes, we saw a company coming to do a project brief, which was done. But now, the Zambia Gold Company is mining alongside the exploration. Are they saying the impact which they documented in the project brief is equivalent to what is actually happening on the ground with mining going on or not? So if that is not the picture, why has ZGC not gone back to do an environmental assessment again that will suit the activities that they are carrying on now, because they are opening up open pits now. We have seen some areas that have opened up there, which they did not mention in the project brief. So I think those are some of the issues again. Should we just go on because we have already done a project brief? Is that enough? Even in the environmental and social mitigation plan, where is it? We want to see it as a community. Personally, I would like to read it and really understand it and follow it up. But this I have not seen. So where are we? So I think we need to be guided properly by the companies that are coming to invest in Mwinlunga in Kasenseri. And I think we are opening up. And what the companies should understand, the Zambia Gold Company should understand that Northwestern is not experiencing mining activities for the first time. Yes, Mwinlunga may have these as first activities, but I think Northwestern is already with Kansanshi, Rumana, and Kalumbila. So we have been following up how these companies are behaving. So Zambia Gold Company being attached to government, we expect the best. We expect them to actually do better than Rumana, would do better than Kalumbila, do better than Kansanshi in terms of community engagement and responses that they're giving to us and giving us hope. So I think that's what we do as coming from the company. And my last one is a question going to the gentleman from I think the ministry, who is actually the previous speaker. He was explaining distinguishing between Zambia Gold Company and the Consolidated Gold Company, and I've heard, and I think that's quite clear. But now I want him to also clarify something. In all the records that I have read referring to Kasenseri, most of them have been recorded under ZCCM Gold Company. And now, when you get on the ground, you talk to the employees, they will tell you this is Zambia Gold Company. So what is the difference between Zambia Gold Company and ZCCM Gold Company? Are these the same? Is this the same company? And if it is the same company, why same company? Why one company? Why should one company have two names, two different names? So that I would love to understand. And then, there was a mention of the community and other companies also owning shares. The last meeting that I attended, someone from Zambia Gold Company openly in the meeting said that the Zambia Gold Company was owned 49% by the Ministry of Finance and 51% by ZCCM. So where is the community? The Chibuika Chiefdom Trust that was mentioned. Where is PCB and Kampoko, the initial license holders? Where are they? If Zambia Gold Company is owned by two entities, Ministry of Finance, ZCCM, but now in the statements, people are saying there's also PCB, there's also Kampoko. How does this work? So maybe I will need to learn also from the gentleman who's the previous speaker to help us. So for now, unless there are other things, thank you so much. I'm ending here. Thank you.
Mr. Mungwara, thank you so much for your the issues that you've raised and the very important information that you've shared with us in line with your experiences, and of course the kind of interface that you've had with the people of Kasengeri and of course the people of Mwinilunga and Northwestern Province who really want to see benefits from these gold mining and all the activities going on that side. I think there was a question that you posed to Mr. Henry Sampa, the JCCMI representative, and we want Mr. Sampa to take note of that. I think the questions will be tackled at the end of or at the tail end of the presentations. When the speakers are done, we have a session of about 20 minutes, question and answer. So Mr. Sampa, please take note of that, because Mr. Mungwa wanted to know the difference between ZCM gold company and of course the Zambia gold company, and of course the other issues that he has raised. I want to
Hello. Good afternoon, Mishek.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Lange.
Yes, we're having challenges in getting you. Are you okay? Is the network okay? Okay. Thank you very much. Just to try and support. You know, we're having challenges of network with Mishek. Allow me to.
Hi, Edward. Can you
yes,
hear
please.
me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
You seem to be on mute. We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I was saying, is Mr. Kangamungazi with us?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Kangamungazi, the head of program at Caritas Zambia, can take it over from there. Apologies for the tripping network, but we'll try as much as possible to engage.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be on the panel. My name is Edmund Kangamgazi, coming from Caritas Zambia. I'm the Economic and Social Accountability Program Specialist there, and also the head of programs. Maybe just talking to the issues of the subject matter today about issues of gold mining in Mwinilunga. First of all, I think Caritas Zambia takes a keen interest in issues of mining in Zambia because, of course, mining takes a very big center stage in terms of development of the country. Looking at where we're coming from, I think most of the country's development as now has been necessitated because of mining. Looking at copper, gold, manganese, tin, these have really built the country that we have today. So for Caritas Zambia, I think for our interest is where is the money going, or what's being mined and how it's actually being mined. Mindful that, of course, if you look at mining in Zambia, I think more than 70% of our exports is mining. More than 70% of our foreign exchange is coming from mining. And so we're basically talking about what country is today is because of mining. So if you look at the challenges that we have in the country now, for example, in December, we missed a payment of our debt of more than 40 million. As it is now, the country has more than 12 billion of debts, international debt. More than 40% of, let me just say 54.4% of people in Zambia are living in extreme poverty. And we have more than 300,000 people that are food insecure. So we talk about mining and minerals, we are seeing hope in terms of how can we actually change these statistics. So for us, mining really can play a big contribution factor in terms of trying to reduce or come with a solution in terms of trying to develop or change this scenario. So if you talk about mining, or when we found gold in Kansaseri, we, as Caritas Zambia, we thought, oh, good, probably we have found the answers to some of our problems that we have in terms of financial muscles to actually deal with some of these problems. So if you look at mining in Kansaseri, it basically deals with four groups. We're talking about Kansaseri community, Munyulunga district itself, the Northwestern province itself, and the people at large. So having looked at the study that was done by Sarah, spearheaded by Mr. Michelo, look at what is being depicted there. We talk about issues of, there are many fights that have occurred because of mining. And for us, when you're seeing a lot of fights and we're looking at conflict, and even just the media itself, it talks about how, I think last year we talked about, we heard about 129 bags of gold missing at the Mwenilunga police. One would ask, how do things go missing at the police station? We talk about 220 kg of gold samples actually missing. So a lot of media has actually depicted a lot of things of what has been happening in Kansaseri. So for us, I think that has been a challenge in terms of we're not seeing any benefit that is actually accruing to the people of Kansaseri, even just the community itself. So we look at issues of, if you look at the report itself, if you look at issues of corporate social responsibility, the report gives a lot of highlights in terms of what is corporate responsibility. And even Mr. Sampa actually gives the highlight of that. For us, I think we have a challenge, first of all. You cannot define compensation that is being given to the displaced community as a compensation. That is not a compensation. That's an obligation for the mining companies because they're moving those people from where they are, where they've been staying there for many, many years. So if you move those people, it should not be seen as a favor, no. And it should not be seen as a corporate social responsibility, it's not. So if you look at the study itself, even Mr. Sampa, I think gave an highlight of in terms of what is being CSR, what is being done. That is not CSR. Even so, when you talk about issues of the equity shares that have been given to the chiefdom, that is not CSR. So even when you're giving employment to the youth, that should never be defined as CSR because the mining companies need people to work for it. So it should not be seen as being given as a favor, no. So when you're talking about CSR, you're talking about what should be done because the community is benefiting, it's extracting resources from there. So how can we actually help the community become a better community than what we found it? So those are the things that we're looking at as CSR. So even so, when you talk about issues, what has been happening in Kansaseri, I think it's something that we all need to be interested in and all should be worried about. Because as it is now, if you go to even just what is being highlighted in the report, there are no accrued benefits that we are seeing. Yet, if you look at last year, December, we saw reports that even the government reported that they got 50 kgs of gold. So how did that money actually benefit the communities? So we're looking at how do we actually ensure that in the communities, there's better infrastructure. In the community, there are better schools. In the community, there are better clinics. But we're not seeing that. So if you're talking about gold mining, we don't need to wait for 5 years, 6 years to actually see the benefits. We get the gold. In the next few months, we should be seeing the benefits because gold is on high demand right now. So we're supposed to be seeing those particular benefits. Even so, when you're talking about issues of compensation that has been given to the people, last year we had 2 meetings actually. In August, we had what we called the mining Indawa, where we called the chiefdom, the communities, the mining company itself, and the government officials to actually discuss the different challenges that we are seeing in Kansaseri mining. And unfortunately, of course, ZCCM wasn't represented, but unfortunately, all the people that were there did not talk any good of what is happening in Kansaseri with regards to issues of mining. No one is seeing the benefits. If you look at the council itself, even so, we had a follow-up meeting in December 15th to the 16th. Fortunately enough, now ZCCMH was represented in the meeting. And the major challenge that was being seen is that there's lack of information. There's a information gap between ZCCMIH and the council or the government itself. For instance, ZCCMIH is now exploring. but the local council itself has no idea of the plans that are being done at the council. Even so, they haven't even gotten a planning permit from the local council. So how do we actually operate and you expect benefits to actually accrue there? Eventually, we would see any machinery that is going to the mining company. The local authority will need to be going to issues of getting property rates or asking a business fee. But if they are not reported, if they're not registered in the district, how do you then expect to see the benefits? So it's the aspect of there has been a lot of shortcuts that have been done in terms of mining in Kasenseli, and which we think that they need to be, sorry? So which we think that there's a lot that needs to be changed in terms of mining and even just the practice of what is happening in Kasenseli. Even so, if you look at the country now, we're looking forward in terms of getting the revenues from Kasenseli. Looking at just the local administration there, even just the chief there, in terms of he hasn't been given enough information in terms of what is happening, the plans that are happening in Kasenseli. Even just the traditional aspect hasn't been followed in terms of what is happening with the gold mining. So there's a lot of correction that needs to happen in Kasenseli in terms of trying to follow the right procedures. As it is, I think now a lot of shortcuts have been made. And even so, if you look at last year, we talked about, I think there was a lot of directives of having formation of cooperatives. The core communities there were so excited about going to do the cooperatives. They even formed cooperatives. I think there are 2 cooperatives or more than 2 cooperatives now. Those cooperatives were formed, but no direction has been given to them. No mandate has been given to them. And those cooperatives were told they'll be given portions of land to mine. Mr. Sampa says that there are about 1,000 hectares of what has been allocated. But we need to know, of those 1,300 hectares, how much of that is actually going to the community? That has not been made clear. Even just the communities themselves, even just the local administration, or even just the chiefs has no idea. So we need to do, before mining really takes place in that particular area, we need to find ways of how do we harmonize the different information that is going to people. Look at issues of local authorities, even the people themselves. I think the people there need a lot of information in terms of what are the plans of the government. I think if the issue is if you're not giving the people information on what is the plan, what is the way forward, how are they going to benefit, you're going to raise a lot of suspicion. I'm sure last year you saw there was a lot of riots in Kasenseli, people actually demanding for answers. And those answers are not being given to the people. And if you're not being given to the people, you're going to cause a lot of alarm and a lot of suspicion, and people will just be saying people are stealing gold there. So I think we urge the government, even just the local administration, in terms of how do we actually ensure that the community is there, the local administration are furnished with the right information. Probably one of the issues that Sarah needs to look at is, having done this particular research, how do we go back to the communities and actually tell them that this is what we found and this is what the government is doing, this is what the CCMIH is doing? That would be good. Boreholes were drilled in Kasenseli. Do people know that these were done by the government and this is because of the gold mining that is happening there? Probably they don't know. So that's why maybe people are saying we don't see the benefits. So I think there's a lot of information sharing that needs to happen in Kasenseli. And I think the report gives a good springboard of where we can actually start in terms of trying to look at where do we start from. It talks about issues of formalization of artisanal mining in Northwestern Province. I think that's a good thing. This thing has been talked about over and over, but nothing much has been done. I think talking about it, so the report also talks about issues of a quick compensation. As in December 16th, when I was in Munyulunga, the compensation hasn't been done. So maybe the compensation has been done in the last 3 months. But if you're going to start mining and fencing the area, we need to compensate those people. And you need to now tell them this is where you're going. So if that hasn't been done, that needs to be done urgently, because we don't want people to be saying we haven't been compensated. So we need to know how much people how much has gone to the compensation and where they're actually going. I think a lot of people don't know that. And I can assure you there are more than 9 people, households that need compensation. I think there are a lot of things have been talked about by Mr. Mungwala, so I'll not try to repeat those. I think these are basically my comments on the report and what is happening in Kasese. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kangamgazi, for the very valid and important points that you've shared with us on this very important topic. And I want to believe we are all taking notes so that we get at the tail end, like I mentioned earlier, we can raise all those concerns through questions. And of course, we need clarity on a number of issues that are being raised by different panelists. I will not take much of your time, but we'll move to our next speaker. As you know, network sometimes is tripping and so on. So we'll give 15 minutes to Madam Pauline Sialumba Mundia. She's the Secretary General of the Association of Women in Mining here in Zambia. She will talk about the women's role in Zambia's SMS and, of course, the challenges they face and propose solutions, especially when it comes to issues of gold mining and all these challenges facing Kasengedi and Northwestern in particular, where we are centering on or we're trying to zero in on this important subject. So, Madam Pauline Sialumba Mundia, welcome. Are you there, ma'am? Hello? Hello? Madam, are you there? Kindly switch on your mic. Hello?
She's on mute.
Madam, you are on mute. Madam, you are on mute. Unmute your mic.
Can you get me now?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
My
hear you
name
now.
is Pauline Mundia. I'm the Secretary General for the Association of Zambian Women in Mining. And actually, our interest is the involvement of women in mining. You know, when we read through the reports, you know, I could not see anything, no mention about women. It was just talking about the artisanal. But then you should realize that the artisanal miners is not only men, but there are also women that are involved in artisanal mining, and especially even.
You have muted yourself again.
Yes, we have women gold panels in Kasenseli, but then in the report, no, there was no mention about them, because even the people that were interviewed, I didn't see any woman being interviewed. You know, women's involvement in mining is very, very important, because you know, they contribute to the poverty alleviation. And you know, where a woman is involved, you know, she's always thinking about her family. But now these women have got so many challenges. So I think it's better, looking at time, it's better just zero in on the many challenges that women face. You know, as Association of Zambian Women in Mining, we realize that despite, you know, a lot of women being involved in gold panning, but then we don't have gold panning members of the association. And the reason being that these cooperatives are headed by men, one. And once they're headed by men, and the licenses are actually given to the cooperatives, are not given to individuals. They used to do that before, but then the government has stopped that. So all the gold panning licenses are only issued to a cooperative. So that is challenge number one. And then the other challenge is that since these cooperatives are actually headed by men, so the interest of women is in most cases, is overshadowed, is not even taken into consideration. And in terms of mining, the women don't even have the gold detectors. So as a result, they spend a lot of time, just trial and error to find out whether the gold is. And in so doing, they actually destroy the environment because of poor mining methods. But if they had detectors, then they'll be able to know exactly where the deposits of the gold nuggets are, and they will not waste time. And then the other reason is that these licenses, even though they are affordable, which is about 150 kwacha for the gold mining license, but it is the cost of travel, see, which is very prohibitive, because somebody from Kasenseli has to travel all the way to Lusaka, though we have got the mining bureaus in Solwezi, but then the mining bureaus are not mandated to give the licenses. The licenses are issued in Lusaka. So to the women, that is a big challenge. And then the other reason, the other challenge is that most of these women, they have not been to school, so they don't really understand the issues of mining. So they just do it for the sake of survival. But then we also have in Winilonga, I know that there is one lady who is prospecting for gold. But then even the women that at that level, they also have challenges. And the biggest challenge actually is for them to access the EPP, because to most of them, it's very unaffordable. And some of them, the challenge is for them to access finance, for them to develop their minds. So what we have done is we have come up with recommendations. But then how can we help these women for them to become members of the association? Because once they become members of the association, then the association will be able to give them the information that they need. Because at the moment, the dissemination of information from the association to them is not there, because they are not members. So I think the most important thing is to build capacity in the association, so that the Association of Zambian Women in Mining is able, to travel to Kasenseli and also other areas where gold mining is involved, so that they can be encouraged to form women-led associations, because the women-led associations, once they get the panning gold license, then they will be able to become members of the association. Because as an association, there are times whereby we are able to access grants. So when we get a grant, we can be able to help the women to be able to access gold detectors, or even better tools for them to mine their gold. And then also there is need, for the association to lobby with the government to decentralize the licensing process. We have the mining bureau in Solwezi. No, Solwezi have got manpower there. The Ministry of Mines up there. They can easily issue, like the gold mining license, or even at the district level. Just to ease up the traveling. It can be done right there in Winilonga, because we are talking about helping this, also encouraging more women to go into gold panning. So that is another way. And then also, I think it's very, very important that the government should come up with a policy on how to develop gold mining, because gold mining is a new thing. All along, it has been copper, it has been manganese on the gemstone, but then gold mining, it's a new thing that has come, and then probably come up with a strategy, how how the Zambians, especially women, can benefit from gold mining. And then from what the gentleman from the CCM was talking about, there is no mention about women being employed at this gold mining company. But I think it's very, very important because we are trying, and then even as Association of Zambian Women in Mining, would like to see a situation whereby gender mainstreaming in mining is enhanced. And with gold mining in place, it is something that we believe, the women can benefit. Because I just want to give an example, like in Ghana, in Ghana, where there's a lot of gold mining, you find that there are a lot of women that are actually involved in gold mining, even as workers, not only in the large scale mining companies, even at the medium, because there they also have medium and have small scale, and then they have artisanal. So with the company that has been formed, I think the CCM, there is need for them to consider employing some of these women there. I think I can end up there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam, for your submissions and the issues that that you've raised regarding gender mainstreaming and what needs to be done to ensure that women also actively participate in this richly endowed resource that this country has in the northwestern province of Zambia, in Kasengeri to be specific. I will not take much of your time. I just hope that many questions, especially those that are targeted to Mr. Henry Sampa, have been taken note of. Of course, you also take note of this issue. If you have a deliberate policy of embracing women in the activities happening in Kasengeri, that side, regarding what Mrs. Mondia talked about. Yeah, we can now move to the seventh speaker, Mr. Tobias Michelo, economist and co-author of the research, key challenges and findings and recommendations in the report that has been made. And of course, you make the way forward and of course discuss and dissect this issue in a manner that it has been highlighted. So Mr. Tobias Michelo, are you there, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes,
Mr.
can you
Michelo,
get me?
welcome. We can get you clearly.
Are you able to get me? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, yes, sir. You can go ahead.
Yes, so I've put up a presentation on the screen. I don't know if people are able to see it.
Okay. I can see it. I don't know.
Okay.
The other colleagues, yeah, maybe you can just run through that.
Okay, yeah. So I'll try to run through this very quickly. My job is very simple. I'm basically giving the findings as they were made from the people in the field. But before I go into the report, let me just thank the previous speaker and indicate also that I've taken note of some of the issues that have been brought forward, starting with Madam Pauline. We have taken note of the issue of women in the report, and I hope Mr. Lange has also taken note of that. Secondly, Mr. Kangamungazi and Mr. Mungwala, Edmond and Mr. Mungwala have given very valuable contributions to the report, which I actually wished we could add them in, but hopefully if in future there'll be a follow-up of this project, we probably need to get most of the issues that have been brought out by Edmond and Mr. Mungwala. And Mr. Sampa as well, I wish to thank him for the clarification, especially on the Zambia Gold Company and the Zambia Consolidated Gold Company. I must admit that in the report, I think the two kept on mixing us up as we were writing, and we really appreciate for that clarification. However, Mr. Mungwala has also brought a good question, which I hope Mr. Sampa will be able to answer at the end of this presentation, where he was asking about the difference between ZCCM Gold Company and the Zambia Gold Company. Yeah. And then lastly, as I go into the report, there are two issues that Mr. Sampa brought out about the figure 164 million for the contribution of gold exports, I think. And then there's also the 67 people who are affected in Kasenseli due to the fencing of the area. Now, you must appreciate that most of the information that was collected here, some of it we are not doing the calculations ourselves. So for example, when you look at the 164 million, it's based on the secondary data that was collected during this research. And this was collected from the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development document, which collects information also from the Bank of Zambia annual reports. So that 164 million actually is an average over a given period. Okay, it's an average over a given period. So we had figures over a 5 period, and then we did an average. That's the 164 million. That said, I can go back to the report and run through it. So basically, the project or the study had specific objectives for which we were following as we were collecting the data. And these are some of the objectives that Mr. Lange has already run through. So I will not waste your time to go through them again. Instead, I'll go to the methodology that we employed in carrying out this study. So the study employed both secondary and primary data, okay? Both secondary and primary data in the process of achieving the objectives of this study. Now, the secondary data included the documents that already exist, such as the annual reports for EITI, the mining company websites, as well as other websites that contained relevant data for the particular study. Now, the main reason why we collected secondary data was to understand the structures as well as the guiding principles of the mining activities in the country, okay? Secondly, in terms of the primary data, we also used mainly the focus group discussions and interviews with some key informants who are involved in the mining value chain. And one of the major sources of information for primary data was the Indawa that was done last year in August by, which was conducted by Caritas Zambia and some civil society organizations, which basically brings up together all the people that are concerned in this process of mining. And for the primary data, the main purpose or our main interest was to understand the historical background as well as the current developments in Kasenseli in particular. So in interviewing the people in the primary data collection, we used what is called a purposive sampling method in selecting the people because we were interested in specific individuals who would give us the valuable information. So this is why we didn't do the random sampling where we just sample everyone, except at the point where we are doing the focus group discussion, we had to just go in the community and randomly pick a few groups which we spoke to. But ultimately, the primary data was collected purposively from the people that we thought would give us the specific information that we're interested in. And in terms of the analysis that we did, the analysis was purely qualitative because we are getting the in-depth views of the different people in the mining value chain and the people in Kansenseli. So it was purely qualitative. Now, in terms of the challenges that we experienced in this whole study, they were in twofold. Basically, there was the problem of availability and accessibility of information. Now, in terms of the availability, for example, when you look at the statistics of how much gold is produced by artisanal miners in Zambia, we don't have it. And that is some of the information that we needed to have in the report, but we did not have it because as at now, there's still this problem of the non-formalization of the sector. As a result, these artisanal miners just do the mining, they collect whatever they collect, those midgets, and then they go away with them. There's nowhere where the statistics are collected. So that also provided a challenge for us in terms of the statistics. Another area where we couldn't get information immediately available was on the people that were displaced, because ideally would have been interested to speak physically to some of these people, as was suggested by Mr. Mungwala, that there were some people who were displaced, like that 67 people that are appearing in the report. But then we couldn't interview them because our accessing them was dependent on getting the list from that side. But then, because probably due to time, we were unable to get the list from the people who could give us. Then in terms of the accessibility, we couldn't access, for example, the chief, because the chief is almost like the middleman who is connected to his local people, as well as to the investors who came to Kansenseli. And so it would have been very good also to speak to him, but we couldn't access him. We tried calling his advisor, but we were also unable to get through. Or even when we got through, the number was just ringing. And then another key area where we could not access was the actual area where the mining is taking place. As you are aware, at some point, the army was sent to that area to guard the place. So people could not just go there anyhow. And that provided a barrier for us to access. So those are some of the major challenges that we have. Mainly they were to do with accessibility and availability of data. So in terms of the findings, which are basically based on our objectives. So if there are certain things that you did not find in the report, sometimes it could be because they were not part of the objectives. So often when we're doing these reports for researchers, we try to stick to the objectives so that we don't go astray and lose focus on our report. So the findings were basically based on the objectives of the study. So one of our major findings was that the artisanal small-scale mining sector has actually become a very important and growing part of the mining industry in Zambia, and actually contributes immensely to national gold production. Okay. Now, the only problem we have with this sector is that in terms of what it contributes exactly, we don't know for now, and probably to take a bit of time for us to know because of the non-formalization. As I indicated earlier, there are no statistics. So we are unable to get exactly how much it contributes to the national production of gold. But when you look at countries that we can use as reference points, countries like Ghana, countries like Tanzania, you would find that actually, in terms of the contribution of this sector to the national gold output, the average is between 25 and 30% of national gold output. Actually, in Zimbabwe, it's 60%. So if we're going to use that as a proxy, you'd then be able to see how much we would add to our national gold output at the end of the day if we are collecting this, or if we were to formalize this sector and use the outputs for the benefit of the country. Secondly, the sector is providing a lot of revenue and source of livelihoods to our local people. Why? Because the methods that are used in the extraction, in the exploration, and in the processing of the minerals in this sector are quite simple for the local people to be able to afford. So as a result, it becomes easy revenue for them, which eases their livelihoods as well. However, we are hoping, as has been promised by ZCCM, that formalization process for this sector is coming through soon. Because one thing that also we were able to note is the fact that these people, the local people, are unable to get licenses for them to conduct the business of mining legally. As a result, they do it illegally, okay, sometimes. And then also, it appears the process of getting licenses is a bit expensive and costly for them. For them, like Madam Paulina has mentioned, getting license itself is not very difficult. It may not be very expensive, but the traveling from one point to the other becomes expensive for them. As a result, probably the suggestion would be that the process of doing that needs to be localized. And then the next thing I'd want to talk about is basically the historical background and development of gold trading in Kansenseli, which Mr. Mungwala has gone through. So I don't know if I really need to go through this, but it is important to mention that at this point, after the discovery of gold in Kansenseli, and after the movement of ZCCMIH Gold Company into Kansenseli, the study discovered that the company immediately they moved into the area, they fenced the area where some local people were doing their mining. And I think that is one of the issues that has brought a bit of controversies in that area, but I'll not go into the analysis of the report. Let me just give the findings as they were. Secondly, even after they moved, by the time that this study was done, the full extent of the mineralogy was not yet established and revealed to the public. So as at the time that the research was being done, no one knew to what extent the company had discovered the minerals in this area. Coming to the corporate social responsibility, which I'm so very glad for Edmond, who explained in detail what this is supposed to ideally mean, as opposed to some of the things that, or as opposed to how most of us understood it. But speaking to ZCCM, okay, as we spoke to ZCCM, the explanation was that plans were currently underway to bring several social services to Kansenseli community that would benefit the inhabitants of the area. And these include, among others, clean drinking water, employment for the youth, 5% equity for the chiefdom, recreation facilities, education scholarships for the young people, compensation for any people displaced by the mining activity. And at the same time, when we spoke to the local people regarding their expectations of what they would want from the investors who are doing the mining exploration in their area, the following were the things that they also expected, or the things that they mentioned as their expectations. One, working hand in hand with the local people, that the company would work hand in hand with the local people to improve the road network. Two, improve the water reticulation in the area, bringing in of power, electricity, bringing in of a hospital. And however, the most frequently expressed concern was about employment creation in the area. Okay, they were saying, according to the people that were interviewed, the local people, they were saying, currently the company has some people who are working within the area that they had fenced, but those people had been brought along from wherever they were coming, wherever the company was coming, whether it was Lusaka or Copperbelt. But the local people themselves, or the local youths who expected to be employed in this area, were left out. That was their claim. Finally, also with people having been displaced, there was expectation that the company would compensate these people who had been displaced from their farming area. So after interviewing the people and after interviewing the investor, ZCCM, as researchers, we also went on the ground to check on the people on the things that had been claimed by the investor and those things that the people were expecting, so that we could compare, okay, and do triangulation. And the following things were discovered to be there on the ground right now. One, a football pitch in village head Mandongu's area had been upgraded by the company as a way of promoting recreational facilities. A mechanized borehole, solar powered with 10,000 water tank, had been constructed by the company in Kansenseli, and that provided the clean water for the local people. Now, apart from the above, the community was not aware of any other social services that had been brought in the community by the company. Let me also mention something in relation to this. I think it must have been Edmond who talked about this as well, that some people were asked actually in the local area about if they knew of any services or corporate social responsibilities that had been carried out by the company, indicated that they had no idea of any. And this is before we actually did further investigations and confirmed on our own physically. So in short, most people do not know what is going on. Most people in the local area do not know what is going on with regards to what the company is doing. Okay, I've mentioned the issue of employment, which the company indicated that they had so far employed or provided employment by hiring local residents for the initial assignments of clearing and fencing the mining area. And at a later stage, an interview with Mr. Mungwala actually confirmed that indeed the company had hired some local residents for the initial assignments of clearing and fencing the mining area. Social impact, the socio-economic impact overall of the presence or the coming in of the gold mining activity in Kansenseli. Now, prior to the discovery of the gold, the local people in this area traditionally earned their livelihoods through farming. Now, when gold was discovered, most of them ran into gold mining because it was providing very quick money for them and sufficient for that matter. Okay, providing like an average of 350 to 500 per gram, which was a lot for them. But then when ZCCM took over, the local people not only lost their newly discovered source of income of alluvial gold mining, but also were affected in terms of their farming areas, their farming blocks. The gold rush that resulted from the discovery of the gold at Kansenseli brought about overpopulation with more than 2,000 people, among them foreign nationals from neighboring countries such as DRC and Tanzania. Now, this also we're not able to get the specifics in terms of the number of these foreigners or who the actual foreigners were, because according to the people that were interviewed, The only way they could tell that these were foreigners was the languages that they were talking, but there was no record really to show that this one is a Tanzanian or this one is from Congo. Okay. And the overpopulation, which resulted in several broken marriages, those social effects of overcrowding and all these foreigners coming into place, I think this area has been spoken into detail by Mr. Mungwala. So I'll go over this straight to the conclusion. Now, based on the findings, these were the major conclusions. So if you didn't really read the whole report, or probably didn't understand certain areas, or you didn't really follow this presentation, if you understand this conclusion, you'll be able to understand overall what the report was all about, or what the study found out in Kansenseli. One, the lack of formalization of the small scale and artisanal gold mining sector by the government has impacted negatively on the local people in mining areas, as they cannot fully and legally participate in the mining activities in their area. In turn, this has led to high levels of illegal mining in these areas and resulting in lack of reliable statistics in terms of how much gold is mined by the informal sector and how much of it is smuggled out of the country with no trace of record. So you can see the effect on the local people of non-formalization is now spreading out to the national or to the national level, because now as a nation, we cannot take stock of what we are producing or what we are mining out of our land. Now, thirdly, in relation to Kasenseli gold discovery specifically, the study discovered that regardless of the high levels of illegal mining that took place in the area, the eventual takeover of mining by ZCCMIH Gold Company was a legal procedure. Was initially, when we spoke to the local people, they had actually expressed concern with regard to the way the company came into the area, because they thought they had just come illegally or without any blessings from the powers that be. Fourthly, while some of the company's corporate social responsibility promises had not yet been met or fulfilled by the investment company, it was probably too early at this point to judge the company at the point the study was being done, to judge the company as they were still in their early days in mining in that area. And so far, their efforts to fulfill their obligation has been seen in the ball and football pitch, and the other company's plans were seemingly only known by the chief himself, but not known by the local people in Kasenseli. And based on these findings, the study concluded that one of the main challenges or one of the main problems surrounding the confusion in Kasenseli was that there was information asymmetry. The information which is known by the company is not known by the people on the ground, the local people. The information that is available to the local people is probably not known by the chief. The information that is known by the chief is not known by the local people. And that kind of confusion, I think, which one of the previous speaker, must have been Edmund again, is one that is bringing all these confusions at the end of the day. Based on those conclusions, the following were our recommendations. One, there's need to speed up the process of formalization of small scale and artisanal mining, although the process has already started. This will probably empower the local people mostly, but it would also be expected to spill over to the national benefits. Now, with regards to Kasenseli, there's need for the parties involved to quickly compensate local people who have been displaced from their farming fields to avert hunger. I will keep on remembering this, as Edmond has indicated, that probably this is not really a corporate social responsibility. So this is compensation, which would be very good for the company to do. Thirdly, there's need for the development plans of the company to be shared and made known to all the local stakeholders to avoid suspicion between residents, the chiefdom, and the company. I think Mr. Mungwala emphasized on this part. There's also need to create capacity in local institutions and structures of governance in the area to ensure effective engagement and participation in the entire mining value chain. Madam Paulina, I think, touched on this area because people now are traveling long distances to go and get licenses, which is discouraging for them because it's costly. So if we can localize some of the structures of governance. Finally, while the Ministry of Mines claims that they have decentralized the process of obtaining license, there are still challenges with efficiency with regards to the provincial mining bureaus. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry if I've taken a bit more time. Mr. Moderator, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tobias Migelo, economist and co-author of this research we are discussing today. And of course, he has run through a number of issues, the challenges, findings, and recommendations, and of course, tackling some of these issues that were raised specifically by Mr. Mungwala, Mr. Kangamu Zangi, and of course, Madam Pauline Mundia. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Migelo, for that insightful presentation that you've given us. Allow me at this point, ladies and gentlemen, to move to the next topic or the next session on our program, which is question and answer session. Some of the issues I know Mr. Migelo has tackled some of the issues, but I would like also to invite Mr. Henry Sampa maybe to just come on the forum once again and clear some of the concerns that were raised. I want to believe you are taking note. One of them had to do with women participation in this whole process. Is there a deliberate move or deliberate measure by ZCCM IH? And of course, there was Mr. Mungwala's concerns on the two companies, which seems to be creating a bit of confusion. The ZCCM Gold company and of course the Zambia Gold company. Maybe you can come in and address some of the other challenges and some of the questions that were raised. Mr. Sampa, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you to everybody for the comments and the feedback provided. I think it's been quite helpful and a fruitful engagement. I think I'll start with there were a number of comments that were raised, so I'll try and go through some of them. I think some of them were also for noting. I think from our end, and I'll mention which ones those were. There was an issue to do with, for example, issues to do with jobs being offered to locals. I think that was that Mr. Mungwala initially who raised that. I think on this issue, there were jobs, I think, that were given to locals. I just wanted to also probably start by explaining the kind of operation that it is. Currently, we're employing in total of about 40 people who are working on site. Of those, a majority of them are general workers who I think predominantly are hired from the local areas. In terms of the people who do the actual sorting and the washing of some of the nuggets that are mined, those I can confidently say that are from the local areas, either Munyulunga or Kasansele itself. However, on the aspect of the highly technical positions, what happened is that most of these have been are being obtained from existing staff from ZCCMIH. That is the mining engineer who's on site, the metallurgist, as well as the geologist as well. These are being obtained, were obtained from outside the local Mwinilunga or Kasenseli area. I think with this, as these are mostly employees from ZCCMIH, I think going forward, the plan was once the company is fully capacitated and is able to absorb some of the overheads involved in employing highly technical staff, then these would be advertised to the public. I think you may, I'm not sure if anyone was able to see in the media, I think in the newspapers, there had been a number of employment or jobs that had been advertised. If I recall, there's been a job for a metallurgist, shift supervisors, and so on and so forth, which I think had been advertised in all the daily newspapers, as well as on the internet and social media. So in terms of employment, we have been advertising these to the general public, and we have also received applications in some of these jobs from people from the Mwinilunga area. And so in terms of employing, as you're aware, we have to also be quite transparent in our employment processes. And that means that we have to advertise it and have it open to anyone who is Zambian and who qualifies for the job, both from an academic standpoint, as well as from an experience standpoint. So those are some of the considerations that we have to take into account when we are employing some of these. However, these have been noted, the concerns that were raised. In terms, excuse me. In terms of the difference between ZCCM Gold and Zambia Gold and the issue of shareholding, maybe I will just take you back on this one. So initially, when this company, which is now Zambia Gold, was being formed, there was an issue, I think an administrative issue at Pakra, where an error had been made in issuing the certificate. And I think because of the company's relationship with ZCCMIH, the documentation was previously issued in the name of ZCCM Gold Company. However, after we clarified this with the ministry as well as with Pakra, a few months, administratively, it took a month or two for it to be rectified on the documents. This then is how then we correctively started using a Zambia Gold Company. So ZCCM Gold Company does not exist. We only have one company, which is Zambia Gold Company. In Zambia Gold Company, you have ZCCMIH, who have a shareholding of 51%, and the Ministry of Finance, representing the government, who have a shareholding of 49%. Now, on this same issue now, in terms of what it has to do with Kasenseli in particular, within that structure, there is another special purpose vehicle that was formed. The purpose of this vehicle was to, firstly, to recognize the contribution of the initial license holders who were PCB and Kampoko in terms of some of the work they'd done on site, including the identification or the discovery of the resource, as well as to incorporate the 5% shareholding, which was allocated to Chief Chibuika Development Trust. So under Zambia Gold, there is another structure which is, I think, goes by the name of Kasenseli Gold Limited. So in this structure is where you will find PCB, Kampoko, as well as the Chiefdom, and finally Zambia Gold Company. I think the confusion has probably arisen out of the second vehicle, which is the Kasenseli special purpose vehicle, only being incorporated, I think, as late as last year, and this was due to, I think, ongoing negotiations that were taking place between the different stakeholders and the chiefdom. So we were able to conclude these towards the end of last year, and this vehicle was incorporated. So ideally, going forward, Kasenseli Gold Limited is the company that would then be holding the mining license in Kasenseli. So I hope I've been able to clarify that in the simplest way possible. Then there was the gentleman from Caritas. He raised a number of issues, I think, to do with CSR. I think one of the issues he raised was that some of the initiatives we had conducted were not CSR, or rather were not favors, or were, I'm not sure if I got his exact sentiments that came out of that, but I was hoping maybe he would
May I assist? Maybe he was talking about displacements and of people, and of course compensations. He was saying we cannot mistaken that to CSR. I think that's what he was talking about.
Correct. Thank you for that. Yes, I think he made a statement to the effect that the compensation was being considered as CSR or something to that effect. But I wish to correct him that I don't think that is what I said when I was addressing the meeting. What I said was that there was compensation that had been assessed in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture, or rather the Ministry of Agriculture through the District Agricultural Officer. So we invited the District Agricultural Office to oversee the whole process in conjunction with our consultant, Misenge Environmental and Technical Services Limited, where the sizes in this assessment, the sizes of the plots, the farming plots, were taken into account. There was also the prevailing market price of whatever had been planted on the said fields at the time, and what we expected the value to be. And this value is what was agreed on between ourselves and the 9 families that were affected by the fencing exercise or the closing off of the mining area. So I just wanted to clarify that it was not CSR, it was compensation. If you look into mining regulation, compensation is a prerequisite, and it is required after you do the environmental impact assessment on where you're mining from. So it is in no way considered as CSR. What I did speak about on CSR was on the aspect of the borehole that we had sunk, and then I also further on went to speak about the items which we were considering in our budget for this coming year, which were the health post, as well as the classroom blocks that we had budgeted to construct in the Kasenseli area. So that would be my response on that. I think on the issue of engagements with the council, I think this is well noted. And I think post this report that had been issued, we have, through our management team, has been engaging, I think, the council on the issue to do with rates. I think there has been numerous written communication, as well as physical meetings held with the council, I think as early as last month, or as early as at the beginning of this month. So we are working on dealing with some of the issues and the concerns that the council has, and looking to rectify this. This includes all rates and issues and issues to do with that. There were also, I think, concerns over the chiefdom not being aware of the activities happening in the area. I think I find this a bit difficult to appreciate or to comprehend. As I said earlier, we are the chiefdom is a shareholder, and this can be seen at Parker. He's a shareholder in the Kasanseli special purpose vehicle that was formed, and I think the intention of this was to ensure that the chiefdom is involved in the company. And so, one of I think their one of sort of the main motivations of this is to help us to communicate with the community and to be the voice of the community in our activities. So I think perhaps it is an area of improvement, definitely. And we will also take that under advisement, but that is the spirit within which there is that 5% shareholding that the chiefdom holds in the company. In terms of employment of women in mining, I will take this also under advisement, and I will share this issue with our management team, who would advise. But what I could say, probably from my standpoint, is that we are an equal opportunity employer, which means that we do not segregate employment of based on gender or based on race. So we do, even within Zambia Gold Company, have employed some women within our structures. However, in terms of on the actual mining sites, at the moment, we do not have any female representation. However, this is something that hopefully we can correct going forward. I think, I don't know if I've missed out anything. Maybe to Mr. Michello, who had spoken on the issue of formalization of artisanal miners in Mwenyelunga. I think this, if you recall recently, there were pronouncements made by the Ministry of Mines where they had issued, I think, 11 panning licenses in the Kasanseli area. And these licenses are currently in the custody of the chief. If I remember from my last engagement with the chiefdom, their intention was to have, they were not happy with the way the licenses had been issued by the ministry, in that the licenses had been issued, the panning licenses had been issued in the names of certain individuals within the Kasanseli village. However, what the chiefdom wished, or what they had wanted to be done instead, was that these licenses should be issued in the names of cooperatives, which would be groupings of people coming together to do the mining as a group. So I think that was the main delay in them commencing the activities, that they needed their license, the panning licenses, to be reissued in the name of specific cooperatives. So I think I have addressed majority of the issues raised. However, if I've missed out anything, please feel free to let me know, and I can deal with that.
Indeed, you have tackled a number of issues that were raised. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Henry Sampa. We really appreciate. May I, at this point, we have actually run out of time, but may I, at this point, just accommodate each or panelists to say a few concluding remarks under a minute each. I'll start with Mr. Mungwala. Are you there, sir? Any concluding remarks as we wind up? Our friends from Saro are taking note.
Thank you so much. Except that I lost the voice of if there's a recording, please let me just have it so I can listen to it. But I listened to the other part where he explained the difference between ZCCM God and Zambia God company. The other part, I didn't hear him. Anyway, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you, the conveners, for actualizing this meeting where a villager like myself could find space to participate. Thank you so much. We hope next time you also consider us. To ZCCM, Mr. Sampa, thank you so much for clarifying on the issues, especially the last part that I was able to listen. And I still appeal to you that please do your best. You are already, as the Zambia God company, our corporate neighbor, and we hope to stay with you, GC, for the lifespan of the mine. For I think Saro and Carter Zambia, I'd like to suggest that I think Saro should also take keen interest in engaging with the community is close as Carter Zambia has been. Most of the time, I recall very well. I think our interaction was usually on phone, and of course we met once. But I think if you could engage as close as Carter Zambia had done, you are going to gather as much information as possible. And this should go to any other NGOs that are coming in to help. Please feel free to contact us as members of the community that are concerned, and of course other communities and the chiefdom and the district. There are a number of stakeholders that would help in building up a consensus, so that together with the company, the community, and all the stakeholders, we build the future for this country. So thank you so much. That's why I end. Next time.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me move to Mr. Kangamgazi. Maybe just a few concluding remarks over the topic of discussion today, and then we move to another gentleman. So, Mr. Kangamgazi, are you there, sir?
Yes. I think thank you very much to Sarah for organizing this particular meeting. I think it's always good that we meet and discuss issues that relate to development, because I think there are a lot of issues that need to be discussed in Lunga, more especially in Kasenseri mine. If you look at the challenges that are being told by the communities, that are being told by the local authorities, I think they're huge. So I think we shouldn't wait. If it becomes a habit, it's the way we have such meetings every quarter. I think that would be helpful in terms of trying to look at the progress and trying to look at the milestones that are actually being achieved. Yes, Mr. Samba, yes, I think the CSR, I think I was referring more to the research report, not to what you discussed. But I think for ZCCM, I think what we need from you is to become more transparent with information. I think the most important thing, I think you need to have community meetings and discuss with the community. Just update them in terms of what they're doing. Don't make any promises. Just update them in terms of what you're doing and your future prospect. As it is now, the communities are not aware. So I think that's something that you need to do. And probably, Sarah, you could also help in terms of trying to have more community meetings in Mwenyelunga. And we're hoping that through Mr. Mungwala, we're going to have another stakeholders meeting before the elections, probably in May, June. And we're hoping that ZCCMIH will be there and also help us in terms of trying to look at the progress that has been made. Otherwise, we look forward to more engagement with yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kangamgazi. Madam Pauline Saulumba Mundia, are you there, ma'am? Hello? Madam Pauline, are you there? Hello? Okay, if she's not available, I know that we're having some challenges in terms of network. We can go to Mr. Tobias Michelo. Any concluding remarks?
Yes, Mr. Wangwe, thank you very much for the opportunity. I wish to thank everyone for the critique that was given to the report. I think that's what makes any research more stronger. That's what gives it value, when you can get those critiques and add into the report. As you know, we are not monopolies of knowledge, so sometimes we might have missed a few things. So platforms such as these are very valuable for us to be able to strengthen our reports. And then just one clarification with Mr. Sampa on the issue of the chief and the company not being in touch. I think he probably didn't get that one correctly. What I meant by the information asymmetry amongst the involved parties is that the company is in touch with the chief. So the chief knows what is going on, but then that information which goes to the chief does not trickle down to the local people. As a result, we find that the company may be doing certain things, hoping that the local people would appreciate such things, but the local people don't understand it, and as a result, they raise up all these issues. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Yeah. Overall, I wish to thank Sarwa also for this opportunity to allow everyone to come together and have such a very good discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mjero, for your progressive submissions, and we really appreciate. We will ensure that we will continue working together to achieve one common intended purpose, that is the interest of the people and the interest of the nation at large. At this point, before I invite Comrade Edward Lange to come in and give his concluding remarks as we wind up, maybe allow me to also allow my colleague, Masutane, are you there? Just to say a few things before we wrap up. Masutane? Hello?
My apologies about that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for facilitating this event, and thanks to all our panelists for heeding our calls to come and discuss this very important report. So the discussion really did put the contents of that report in perspective, and I hope that even everyone that is, all the audience that are listening are able to take something away from these very valuable discussions, and we look forward to working together with everyone that has participated in the areas that would still need to be revisited. We'll stay in touch so that we can do follow-ups where necessary. So on behalf of Sarah, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation, and you, Mr. Moderator, for steering these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we must mention about your tireless efforts to ensure that we have a successful meeting. Masutani, well done. Please keep up the good work. May I invite now Mr. Edward Lange to give us a wrap up, just a short one. I know that we have run out of time, so but you can give us a wrap up over all the issues that have been raised and the way forward from here. Mr. Lange.
Mr. Lange, Edward just sent me a message to say he's unable to connect now. So he also just mentioned that I should thank all the fellow panelists for their participation as well. So I guess from here, you can go ahead and close with these blessings as well.
Thank you so much. I want to believe we'll get in touch. We have created a strong network, and to make progress on this report that we've had, an assessment of the status of artisanal gold mining in northwestern province of Zambia. It has been a very, very progressive and wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for all of you who have participated in it. and see you next time when we organize a similar event. This time around, as you know, because of the advent of COVID-19, most of these forums will be held on webinar like this, and then we'll be discussing progressively on issues that are affecting our communities. I'm looking forward for further engagement with the panelists and of course, Sarah, to ensure that follow-ups are made on issues that have been raised. Mishek Wangwe is my name. I sign out from here. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies.